Ooh. The striped ones?
No.
Yes, the bar ones. Yes. Oh, yeah. I don't really like the striped ones, but the little bar ones. Oh, my goodness. Oh, yeah. Oh, I got none of those. Hey, I'll tell you who made it. Dude, hey, I'll tell you who made an awesome cookie. Man, my mom makes an awesome cookie. Let's just go ahead and throw that out there. Next time I'm over there, and she's always making some cookies. Dude, if I am over there, I will grab you some of her cookies. Like, hands down. Mom, I don't care. If the podcast rolling, whatever. My mom has the best chocolate chip cookies one has ever tasted. Hey, man, she has a recipe. Oh my goodness, man! I want one of those right now. In fact, but oh yeah, the coffee is delicious from Local Roasters. Local Roasters Coffee. Give them a shout
I
out.
love that Trisha's having a full-on conversation with you, but refuses to get on a podcast.
Oh, I know. Yeah, we're just kind of wheeling her in a little bit. I'm making her
Not
feel
even
comfortable
unmuted.
here.
Oh, yeah, I can hear myself. So
Oh,
I am
100%
unmuted.
we're off mute. But Local Roasters, Trish, dude, they are check them out online. You can order them and have it delivered to the house. And I was in Wichita, and just stopped by there because last time I was there, they were closed. And I just don't like ordering stuff online. I like to get the full effect, going into the actual location and just taking it all in, because you're going into an actual coffee shop that makes the coffee, brews the coffee. I mean, you're getting the true coffee bean. You know what I mean? About as good as you can get without probably going to Costa Rica. You know what I mean? So I go there. I walk in there, and man, just the robust just flavor and just smell of coffee. It just, that aroma. Oh my goodness. It is so delightful. So I walk in there, and then I know what I'm looking for. Well, I think I do. Jenny knows. She's with me. So I think I do. I'm looking for a picture because I took a picture of it on the phone, and she's just right in there, finds it within, Jenny knows where everything is, at all times. So I got that one. I got this other one. It's got like a Reese's peanut butter cup type. I don't know. I didn't think it would be that good, but man, that thing smells so good. I get that in that old cowboy coffee percolator I got going. You know what I mean? And that thing gets that all that steam, the aroma comes off that, gets the whole house just going. Well, I've never had those she said chocolate covered coffee beans. Oh yeah, that does sound kind of tasty. I've never tried just a coffee bean ever.
Really?
Have you had one, Ryan?
I for a while would just chomp down espresso beans. Yeah.
I've not tried. I didn't even know that was a thing. No kidding. And you cover it with chocolate? Oh. Yeah, well, if I'm going to do it for the first time ever, I think I'd want a good one. Yeah,
Maybe.
I'm go all out. You know what I mean? Don't cut the corners. I want some of those coffee beans that they follow cats around and poop out. You've never heard of that? It's a
That's
joke.
a real thing.
But I think it is a real thing.
No, it is.
Yeah, I think it's a real
high-dollar
thing.
stuff.
Yeah, it's high dollar, so I'm
I'm
not going that high dollar, Trish. I'm not going that high dollar.
There's only one place in the world that you can that has that, right?
I seen it on a movie. Is what I seen it
I
on.
think that started in a minute of desperation, like someone's running through and all of a sudden they see these beans and some cat scat, and they're like, "Well, let's see what happens here."
See, I think it went like
They
this.
clean them, they boiled them, right, and then
Yeah.
they like drank it, and they're like, "Oh my god, this is fantastic."
But this is how I see it happening, right? Kind of very similar to that, but this is how I would see it. Someone's walking along, they see something gooey, and they're like, "Ooh, I wonder what that is." So they look at it, and they're like, "Man, it looks like shit, but it don't smell like shit." And they're like, "I don't know, taste it." So then they taste it, and he's like, "Well, it don't taste like shit, tastes good." And he's like, "Well, let me try some." And they're like, "Ooh, that is good." And then then later on they see a cat, then they come across the coffee beans, then they see the cat eating the coffee bean. All of a sudden, it all starts firing, and then they're falling around the cats that are pooping the beans out that are making them, I guess, maybe a little bit better after it goes through the digestive process.
I guess like it has to.
Has
that
to
for some reason.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Because why else would you do it if it doesn't taste?
It was a
better?
big deal. Maybe it was a fad for a while, but it was a big deal. Like people talked about it. Like while you're having coffee at the co-op, they're like, "Hey, have you heard about the cat poop coffee beans?" Yeah. But like, no, I don't keep any of that on my shelf. But since we talked about coffee for 8 minutes now,
Yeah.
you know, if I drink too much of that stuff, it makes me really anxious.
Anxious. Ryan, just firing away with it. Yeah, for sure. Anxious, man. That is a trip. I would like to talk about how our weeks have gone and stuff like that first as well. I mean, we could throw it in the mix.
Well, yeah. I mean,
How you been doing, Ryan?
how have I? Well, it's been an interesting few weeks. Last podcast that I did with you, I was in a very, very grumpy mood.
That's right. Yeah, you were.
I didn't even watch it. I watched bits and pieces through it to make sure we had sound and, check video quality and stuff. And then I knew about where I dropped some words that I don't particularly like to use on the podcast, but I do use them more than I should. And so then I tried to edit some of that out, and then that made me even more grumpy. And so, but yeah, I went ahead and posted it anyways. But so I'm doing much, much more better than that.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So
I have two herniated discs in my thoracic spine.
that sounds rough, Ryan.
It is rough now. So I've had some back problems in the past, so that took me into some bad spots. But yeah, weirdly enough, we talked about after the encounter not having back pain. So I've been wanting to have an MRI, so it was a great excuse to have one. But what gave me my back pain before was these nodules, right, that were in the middle of my spine that poked through the end caps, right? And the name for them is like Schmorl's nodules. Schmorl was this weird guy that found them by dissecting cadavers, whatever.
Yeah.
So no sign of that. So I still like that part. But yeah, all from wrestling around with the guy. Like I said, he tore some stuff in his shoulder at the same time. So
Man, y'all
learned a valuable lesson.
I don't know. Well, what's the valuable lesson, Ryan?
Well, I'm out of shape. I shouldn't be doing that stuff.
Yeah, man. Well, no. That you shouldn't be doing it. I would say the lesson there would be you need to get more active and get moving,
Right.
and begin that process so that way you can enjoy a little bit more life with the horsing around and having fun. You know what I mean?
I
'Cause
think
then you can move better.
Honestly, I've made the decision over the last few weeks. I'm past the point of horsing around.
See, I would totally disagree with that, man, because you just don't horse around because it doesn't because it hurt. You get hurt. So therefore, I would say you like horsing around. You just need to do the things that you don't want to do in order to get there, man.
I just like messing with people, I guess is really, but yeah. I would, I don't know. I mean, there is some truth to that. And so, I mean, so outside of that, it's good to be back to work. I mean, you can say whatever. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's like, it is. It's kind of like beating a dead horse. Like
Really, you was running with me last year.
Well, yeah, for a little bit, and then
So you ain't dead, man. You just don't want to move, so I got to beat you harder.
That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the relentlessness of, well, you need to do this instead of this. What I need to do is I need to focus on the things that are worthwhile, right?
Yeah.
So when I'm in my dark spot, at the end of the day, and that's one of the things that I do want to eventually talk about, and two is kind of let in, like we talked about pain and anxiety. It all goes together.
100% it does.
And at the end of the day, it all goes to the same. It ends at the same place. So if I want true peace or true joy or true any of those things, I have to go to God with it. Because believe me, I tried going to the doctor, and all I did was leave there mad. You know what I mean? Trisha, bless her heart, has done everything in her power to help me. I mean, I outweigh her by 135 pounds. So it's, like the other day I couldn't get off the couch.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Trisha, help me up, and so I'm just saying, but in those dark spots, then I don't identify those things, right?
Right.
And I don't know. I mean, and then I miss stuff. I am no good to anybody when I'm in that spot.
Yeah, for
really
sure,
not.
man. Yeah.
So I don't know. And I mean, as far as like switching jobs, like I was to a point. I mean, it was definitely not as The opportunity though is because like we go to the Y a couple times a week, and now my group on Fridays. Just so clarification here, my group on Fridays for 1 hour will be in the gym.
Oh heck yeah! What Y are you going to?
Well, the Y is that's a different group.
Oh, okay.
So we have on campus where I work at Prairie View, we have a really nice gymnasium. We have bikes and equipment and pool and basketball and pickleball. It's super awesome. That's right there on the campus.
No, that's freaking slick.
So from 10 to 11, I'll have a psychosocial group, and then from 11 to 12 is our time at the gym. And so what I want to do, and hopefully the director will be there, the athletic director will be there to help monitor people. So my plan is honestly just to go and get on the bike to start out with probably like 10 to 12 minutes.
Heck yeah. That's what I'm talking about.
And so there is things that happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah, check this out though. Do you because you say, you go to the doctors, you get all this, so you need to go to God. So when you go to God, I would say you go to God, but then you have to be ready to act and be ready for when God begins to work. And then do you think possibly God's working in a way to put you in a position to where you're getting put in the gym?
Well,
just thinking, man, I don't know.
So the first day that I hurt my back, it did something to me inside my head, right? And it did something to me spiritually.
Yeah.
Because I had been so careful, and it's not a lack of faith, or maybe it is, and whoever could. I would love to. I don't want to do it right now. But for 2.5 years of not doing anything, 90% of the time in bed because of pain, no insurance, no money, like we're just barely surviving, of course, then for that pain to be gone. So I was like, the first week, I really it was like a test, the next day I got up and I ran for the first time in years, right?
Yeah, I remember.
So there's this process that happens, and the ice baths and all these other things.
Yeah.
And then I checked that stupid thing up in my knee, which is a lousy excuse, but that's my excuse. But anyway, so over that period of time, I had been very careful, like lifting properly, because I've always had a very strong back.
Yeah.
And your thoracic...
Oh, dude, you're strong, man.
Your thoracic spine is a very weird place, core-wise, to have an injury. Because the majority of your motion... At least it seems to me, because maybe it's because I'm a fat guy. So things you take for granted, it hurts like really bad to even wipe my butt, right? Because I have to turn to do it. So once I start movement and that twist, then it starts putting pressure on those herniated discs.
Oh yeah,
right. So like. It just sucks getting in and out of the vehicle.
Right. It just, you have back pain, man.
Right. And so then the escalation of
intense
it,
back pain.
like it wasn't bad the first few days, thought it was muscular, went to the doctor, got some muscle relaxers, just to document.
Right.
Had an x-ray. They're like, nothing's broken. Next step. So that, and it was just progressively getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. Now, part of the best part is, knowing what it is, right? So now I know how to mitigate, and I know what my next step is. Because honestly, I was like, I just assumed it was the same thing it was last time, and it's not.
I remember you saying that.
And so that's good. But at the same time, it does. I used to crave the lows so much. I felt so comfortable there.
Yeah.
So it's interesting now that when I'm there, I don't like it much.
I think, man, dude, you would. Anyways, because we're kind of leading into what we said we weren't going to talk about quite yet.
Well, we don't have to, and we're just touching on it. But at the same time, I think one of the most motivating things, and this will lead into where you can start telling about your last few weeks is I always think it's remarkable what you push your body to do, Keeler. I will never dispute that, and it amazes me over and over again, right? And it shows how much you can push. And how resilient your body can be, but bar none, Chase, dude. You know what I'm saying?
Hands down, dude.
So
stud, man, like that drive, dude. I was even having conversations with my dad today, it's just that natural drive,
Right.
and it's just on fire, man.
I think some
it's
of
just
that
like
age
I
plays
won't.
into.
I disagree, man. Well, I think age helps
It
in the
does.
sense that you're bouncing back faster. I would say your healing
Absolutely, in that
capabilities. Now, if you get into endurance capabilities,
Right.
I'm going to go ahead and say, man, dude, like 35, 40s, man. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think as we watch Chase just continue to grow and continue to, just has that drive. I think that his endurance levels by the time he gets to my age are just going to be wild, man.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
I would think.
So-
Anyways, but again, it's something. It's
Psychologically,
it's the mind, man.
it is. It is
It's the mind, dude. It's that mind and how you strengthen that mind and like you kind of touched on it too. Those lows, you know what I mean? Like sometimes, sometimes, man, just to say, like sometimes I'll start looking at races and are just looking for stuff to do that are just gonna be very hard for me to do, and it's
Right.
gonna test my endurance levels in my body, and that's just because I want to feel those lows
I
sometimes.
personally love doing things outside of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, just for putting myself there it's enough to feel successful, right?
Yeah,
So I don't really like being around a lot of people because I have this like social phobia anxiety thing. And now I don't like it when people sneeze on me. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? I didn't like it before COVID though, right?
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
kind of a germaphobe. I'm weird about stuff. So trying to get to the root of things is not always fun, right?
yeah, because well, I'm just thinking about my week too. You know how my week started off. You know, we ran that podcast, and that following weekend they had a local little endurance challenge charity type deal at the old local YMCA.
Which is very cool.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. And speaking on that too, which is awesome. And I mean, I was talking to my brother about that as well, and I was like, like I'm doing the challenge. For one, I hadn't done. I've been riding this stupid bike here for stationary bike. Since it's been cold, I've been riding this bike for miles and miles. I was like, maybe just I've been kind of training for it anyways, or we've been training for it anyways, and it's like. I love the fact that they did it because I do like endurance athletics. You know what I mean? Like I like the whole that endurance type community and everything about it. You know what I mean? I feel strong about it and encourage that as well. Those endurance type events. So, and I think everyone should be at a focus on that to a point. And they had one here at the local Y. I'm like, who am I? Like I'm sitting here. I want more of these types of events in my local community. I want things to move in that fashion. So they finally have one, and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna have to do it.
Yeah, I think it's
I'm just gonna have to show up.
That
You
was
know
the
what I mean?
second time they've done it, possibly.
I think, I don't know if I thought it was the first time they've
Maybe
done
not. Yes, but
it. I don't know.
it
I
was
think
great.
I think they said it was either the first or they did it last year too. I'm really not sure.
Yeah, I briefly read an article and they had a couple pictures, and my favorite part was that they have that row of kind of sit down bikes. Maybe there's only 3 or 4 of them that are right there.
Yeah.
And I've been in the Y, never worked out there, but in and out of there a few times, and so I recognized a few faces of the old coffee guys that sit in the sauna, and they're there taking turns riding their bikes, right?
Yeah.
So they would go till they couldn't go, and then the next guy would jump in
Yeah.
and go, and they'd probably go have some coffee. I love that, and I'm not, some people like they're old guys. They were probably one in better health than me, and they're probably in their late 60s, early 70s. The one guy could have been 80.
Yeah. And then
Yeah,
what we're talking on here because I don't think we've really said it. It was basically an endurance event. It was they set up stationary bikes, treadmills, whatever piece of equipment they had out there, the ellipticals, all that, and basically you just got on one and then you would just log your miles, how many you did on that. Well, we decided to do the bikes.
right.
So we got on the bikes that day, and basically it ran from Friday, from the time little after it opened, then it would go until about closing time, a little before closing, and then Saturday it would do the same, and then Sunday the same. But Friday you had a full day. Saturday they run very few hours. They're open for very few hours, and Sunday even fewer. And basically you just get on the bike, and then you just ride that bike and just log those miles, man. And that's kind of what we did.
Right.
And yeah.
So So let's kind of track on something. Let's talk a little bit about anxiety.
Yeah.
And the ideas of behind it. So, and it kind of started with a little bit of a Facebook post, I guess, right?
Yeah, just kind of. Yeah, it was a Facebook post.
Well, it was
It
like
just said if you have
feeling-
anxiety, if you're suffering from anxiety, you should take a look because you're probably on the wrong path.
Yeah, you're probably where you shouldn't be. I think
Yeah.
was like really close to what it said.
Yeah.
And of course, my response was, anxiety is complex, right?
Yeah, you
That
said
was my my immediate response, and then I can't remember it, basically, but it came down to the idea of there actually is like good anxiety and bad anxiety, right? So, feeling anxious,
I would say there's no. I think we're getting our words wrong because anxiety, I would say, is bad. I think that's what we were saying.
Well, at the
is I
time-
say
that is
anxiety
at the
is
time,
bad,
right.
and then I say anxiety is bad, but there's something which we would refer to as being anxious,
right?
which isn't necessarily so bad.
So
but I think there's a better word we could find for that.
because of the etymology of words. So
Yeah.
if you backtracked before everything was a disorder,
Yeah,
anxiety was just a normal word that would have been, I think it's a synonym to anxious. Like if you'd have looked it up, the thesaurus or whatever it's called in similar words, it would have said anxiety. So that is where I think for me it got kind of like, but yeah, so I agree that I think feeling anxious at certain instances can be a good thing. If it leads to long-term anxiety, which would then be an anxiety disorder, which I struggle with that word. I struggle with because of Thomas Saz and what he says. But it's still the only way to overcome it is through God.
Well, I see. My comment to the post that you're referring to that I shared, I actually commented on that gentleman's post.
Yeah.
And I said, and I was like, indeed, because I see anxiety as more of a gift.
Oh, yeah.
And then I even also threw on there depression as well, because I honestly do feel like I have worked in such a way over my years and overcoming my mental illnesses and whatnot, and God overcoming them. Is it just more like you begin to see these things in your life, that anxiety, that depression? So then you have to look at where you're at. You know what I mean? Am I drawing away from God? Because I believe God says in Philippians, you should be anxious in nothing.
Right. Yeah.
So and in that scripture, I think the word anxious is used.
Then
That gives me another thought. Is like we'd have to tear that down and see where that word actually came from and what it meant. You know, we can go back to Greek or whatever.
Yeah.
And then, however, though, I think it is King James uses anxious. Possibly, I can't remember.
So the ESV is Philippians 4:6 is anxious, and First Peter says anxieties.
Yeah.
So there is, and I think the ESV is. I like that translation.
I do too. I like ESV. I use it quite often, man.
It's leans a little more thought for thought than word for word, right? But it's like so close to it. I mean,
I like the ESV.
The readability of it's so amazing.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, even Matthew 6, this is Jesus' words. Do not be anxious about tomorrow, for tomorrow will be anxious for itself. Sufficient for the day is itself. I mean, constantly, when the cares of my heart are many, your consolations, this is Old Testament, trust in the Lord with all your heart. Don't lead, Isaiah 41, fear not.
Yeah.
Philippians
Fear not,
is the one that everybody goes to, right?
Yeah.
Be anxious. Do not be anxious about anything. Yeah. So there is some plays on words that, I mean, it does matter, right?
But
it really does.
Then at the same time, like you're saying too, like there is, and I think there is being anxious. There's
Right.
There's healthy aspects to that. I believe. Like I can only think like if I'm getting ready to if I'm going to like a 50-mile race or something like that. Whatever, I'm going to be anxious.
Have some butterflies.
100%, man. Like I'll be anxious. I'm not going to sleep at all that night. But I think that what it's doing to me though, it like my body knows what's coming. Everything in me knows what's coming. So it's like you almost go into that warrior type mentality, man. And like you begin to get on high alert. Everything begins to fire. And I think you start getting that adrenaline rush, which is going to, create a lot. It just creates something inside you, man.
It's an anxious feeling is the best descriptive word for it, right? You could use a bunch of other words. And and this is where the American language is so trashy, right? Yeah. So we have basically the same two words that over time have now literally have two different meanings when they used to be the same, right? But that still goes back to kind of with Thomas Saz, and I could try to link the video to that, but So if you go to the 50s and 60s, there was only a handful of mental health disorders.
Right.
Now there's over like 400.
Well, yeah, nice. And then also I got to thinking on that is like, how they turn this anxiety thing into this disorder, right? So now all of a sudden, I almost commented that back to you, but it was so late. I was so tired. I just crashed. But now that we're talking about it, this is what came to mind. I was like, do you think there's so many disorders out there because people are just anxious? They're not necessarily suffering from what you would consider an anxiety disorder. They're just having fits of anxiousness. So then in turn, they're like, oh my gosh, I'm feeling anxious. I need a pill. So you know what I mean? They grab a pill instead of like that. Well, like that post said, it said, instead of just looking for a pill to eliminate that, why don't you take a look at where you're at in your life, look at where you are going on your path, and then begin to make steps and make processes to just fix that naturally instead of relying on pharmaceuticals, you know what I mean? And into the medical aspects of things. Right. And then actually maybe take a look at yourself and where you're at. And really, if you want to, begin to ask God, to show you some direction, give you some clarity on a path, and then start drawing more into that. Because again, as Philippians said, we're not to live in that anxiety type aspects of thing and that worry and that fear and whatnot, man. You should be walking free.
I personally believe that the number of people with true mental health disorder, disability, illness is actually very small. Say you're struggling with something, you go to the counselor and you tell them a bunch of things and they say, oh, well, you have an anxiety disorder. Let me give you this pill. Okay. I take a generalized anxiety pill. I don't take it as often as I probably should, possibly. I don't know. But at the end of the day, when I'm in a spot where I'm trying everything, and not necessarily wavering faith, but it's like, I don't know. I wrestled through that years ago because I am not a big person on. I don't like having to take pills. Really, I don't like to be dependent on something. And then also, I don't like other people having authority over me. So now I have to give someone else the authority over my own body, right? Yeah. And I struggle with that. But it does help me to be able to manage. And so I'm okay with carefully. If I took everything they want me to take, dude, I would be taking like 20 pills a day.
That's right. Everybody, man.
I take 2.
They're a moneymaker, man.
Now, right now, I do take some extra ones, but besides the point. So would you characterize the feeling of nervous, right? Let's say you're getting ready to go to the race. You're nervous for a host of reasons, like mechanical injury, thinking about, all right, so you're going through your checklist. All right, I want to be careful. I want to be sure footings, and you kind of get yourself worked up, not necessarily into a frenzy yet, right? But you're working towards it. So would you characterize a nervous feeling similar to anxious or anxiety, a feeling of anxiety?
Yeah, you could, because you're just nervous about it. Right. Yeah, that could be too. Yeah,
there's lots. That's why I say it's complex.
Yeah, just being nervous. Yeah, that is.
There's so many factors. So when I was struggling last June in 2024 with leaving my house because of anxiety, I was at in the middle of doing NAMI, which is a mental health thing. So I'm at the church.
Get out of here.
You're never going to do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're so funny.
You should just come get on the mic with us here real quick.
She just refuses. It's
you are amazing. Hey, I was just thinking about just bouncing on the podcast for a minute to get a cup of coffee. So yeah.
Please don't ever do that again.
You are a sweetheart.
It hated me so much that day you just got up. Yeah. See, no nervous there, right? Even the coffee, if I drink a lot of coffee, my anxiety level is higher. So I struggle because of my choices and not being disciplined with my physical health and what I eat. I have high blood pressure, an asymptomatic thing that gives your body a natural. When you have anxiety in those butterflies in your fight or flight, your blood pressure raises. So then when your blood pressure is doing this all the time, and then environmental factors and just anything, and then. So I'm at church in June, and Annette goes.
Go I just started thinking about something.
Ryan, why are you struggling with anxiety? Anxiety is rooted in fear. What are you scared of? And I looked her dead in the eye. I said, everything. And what I really wanted to be, and I would never do this. I'd really have to be angry, but I was just like, I don't really appreciate that. Except I probably might have, I don't know. I'd have been like, no, But when she said that, it like kind of struck 2 chords with me. Like, yes. I literally am like fearful of this stupid stuff that I have to process through, and I can't understand it. And then I go right back to, what do I do with that? I write a lot of it down, and then I write it so people can't understand what I'm writing, because if they did read it, then they would probably lock me up, and then there's like fear. Like I have this nervous fear for my children. Like I have this almost obsessive worry, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they've done things that make me worry, right? And a lot of young people are dying, right? I have this excessive worry for people that are in addiction. Now I have an excessive worry for people that are in Oxford houses, because just recently a very young man passed away in one, and nobody checked on him for 24 hours. Like he had been there a while, So is that worthwhile worry? What can I do with it? The only thing I do with it is, at the end of the day, is pray, and pray some more. And like you were talking about, when my level, and this is what struck with me the most out of the Facebook posts, and it was late, I was tired, actually pretty tired then too, was that that is factually accurate. If I'm in this uncontrollable anxiety, I'm in a spot where I shouldn't be, because instead of being reliant on God, I'm trying to be reliant on myself or others, human, not spiritual or divine. And so, yeah, so that has been really, that part has been one of the good blessings that comes from the struggle. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I like the struggle at times, man. I never skip struggle day, man.
Well, I like it when it's my choice to do it a lot.
Exactly.
Better.
Intentional, man. We're getting into, that's what we're probably gonna have to touch on a little bit, but just that intentional, intentional suffering, intentional struggle, like putting yourself there intentionally does something to you, man. It does it. It does something
Wouldn't you
to
say
you.
that to really do it and do anything well, you have to be like 100% intentional with every move you make, right? I mean, even the dumbest things.
Man, I even said that today. Check this out, man. Like my boy today, man. Hey, man, shout out to my son, man. He went out. He went out like a straight champ today, man. True, humble man. Did good. Put out work today. He had a little wrestling tournament, and he went in, man. He got first place today. First time he's ever gotten first place, man, which was, I mean, phenomenal. But it says something, like you say, about that intentional, like, and just going there in full force, man, because you've seen it out there today.
Oh, yeah.
Like a lot of times he gets a little laxed here and there, you know what I mean? He just, he's having fun, has a good time. But today he went out there with full intentionality, man.
Right.
And went out there and you could see just that, just the that intenseness. I don't know how you can, just the intensiveness of it. Just putting it out there, man.
Right.
So I don't know, man. There's something about being just full intentional and 100% focused. And even while you're doing it, you're seeing it, you're moving it, you're focusing fully and completely on the movements.
Yeah.
I mean, you go into anything like that, or anything at all in life, really, man. If you're going to do it, I mean, do it.
Yeah. No, and that's yeah.
And then I say, if you put everything into it and you do it, man, I'm saying a lot of, I mean, you're going to obviously have, you're going to have failure, you know what I mean? Along the ways, you're going to have loss, you're going to have failures. But again, if you're fully committed, you know what I mean? And you get hit and you have failure. And if this is what you want to do and that's what you see and you're giving everything you have, I say, if you continuously get up, I mean, eventually you will have success.
Yeah. I believe that. I really do. I think my life testimony at the end of the day would speak to that. I mean, I could, through other people would probably, I think, would agree.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, we talked here a few episodes ago about the whole miracle thing, you know what I mean? And I really do, at some minimal levels and some maximum levels, believe that it is truly miraculous that either of the Ryans are sitting in the bunker right now.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Yeah. See, again, yeah.
you know,
100%, man.
and then
Yeah.
and then there's a purpose behind that, you know.
Yeah,
And-
and the purpose is to impact. Like I like to lean on is the purpose is to impact the well-being of others, man.
100% it is.
Yeah.
It goes right to the line one,
Yeah.
line two thing.
Yeah, not and just
What we
yeah,
do here
just
on
be
earth
committed.
impacts what is happening in heaven.
Yeah.
Right? It does. It literally
It
says
says that in scripture. Yeah,
numerous times. I mean, the go-to for me to back that up is that the spots where it talks about the angels constantly singing Hosanna in the high, you know what I mean? And then that the part two, and I can't, off the top of my head even think where it is in scripture, but it says the angels will rejoice when one sinner turns away and repents, right? So what we're doing here does impact those things, right? It rallies them probably in a way.
Yeah,
And it
get fired up, man.
It irritates.
We got that dove today.
It irritates Satan. And so through this, I still hold on to the thought, and believe me, it does. It really stressed me out, and it took me to a very dark spot because I'm like, damn, I don't want to go through this again. I do not want to be in chronic pain, which, truth be told, I've spent the majority of my life in some kind of physical pain, right? I mean, just through accidents, long-term injuries, different things, autoimmune inflammatory disease, and so I have to go back. I'm like, what happened along the way that I don't have that in me anymore? Now, obviously, for the majority of my life, I was doing a lot of things for the wrong reasons, but here I am, and I was able to struggle through it without relying on God, really. I mean, at Foxhole Prayers, you know what I'm saying? Whatever. And then the struggle, since I've tried to be more reliant on God and more every day, is tougher, right? It's harder for me to get up. And I know there's lots of factors in it, right? I get that. And I think there's some genetic dispositions that happen. And I think that the Bible speaks to those when it talks about generational curses. And I'm not trying to go down the theology road, but obviously somewhere along the way, my genetic line got jacked up, right? Otherwise I wouldn't have certain things. And then part of that, of course, is environmental, right? So what are the environmental factors? Well, the trash I put in my body, physical injury, mechanical injury. I've been dinked in the head so many times, couple wrecks. So there could be some medical justified reasons why something up here is not working. And then I still come back to the same thing. Doesn't matter at the end of the day, I have to rely on God.
Yeah.
No matter what. And I've said it over and over the last year, like, I don't know.
But yeah, I don't know. Yeah. I still say there's a lot to just, are you intentionally creating that suffering though in your life? You know what I mean? Are you intentionally doing anything?
So I think
that would be the question,
there could be some intentionality to suffering, but I don't think that you should purposely punish yourself. So
no. I'm not saying purposely punish yourself. You're seeing that wrong. I'm saying to intentionally create some suffering, like the activity, like, you know what I mean? Like go for a mile walk.
Right.
Like you don't want to do that. That's not what you want to do at all.
Right.
That's in fact probably the last thing you want to do.
Me personally.
I'm just thinking, or anybody out there, really, a lot of people.
High percentage. You're
Yeah.
right.
It would be like, well, that's the type of suffering I'm talking about. I'm talking about you not wanting to do that. Not at all.
But
not
beyond
100%. But you make yourself get up and do it. I would call that intentional suffering.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Like
yeah,
you're doing something that you absolutely do not want to do.
Right.
It's good for you, but you absolutely don't want to do it. I'm not saying go out there and do something that's going to be like actually harm you.
Right.
I'm saying do something intentionally that's going to help you, but you have to get out of a comfort zone.
And that applies to many situations.
Oh yeah, dude.
If you're being called to testify, I don't care where it is, street corner with a cross, you better do it.
Yeah.
Right. I was reading a deal where it says, and I might have posted it, but God actually doesn't stop calling people. He just calls you with the force, and if you don't respond, it's not very comfortable.
That's pretty.
Just saying.
Followed up by a whale, maybe.
Well, that's the exact point that he says. Remember Jonah? Right?
Yeah, that's good.
Remember Jonah?
That's the one that I always go to.
Yeah.
Like if you're getting called to do something and you try to run away and do nothing, I mean, you liable to get eaten up by a whale.
The Bible is full of highly anointed people that were very willing participants. But on the other side of that, the Bible is very full of people who were not. Yeah. I mean, think about like
100%.
Elijah, right? If you take the story of Elijah and you put it and run it through, let's say you run it through a psychologist or psychiatrist or mental health worker today, they would say, yeah, he probably struggled with some depression and anxiety. He was fearful of Jezebel. And he like removed himself and isolated. So there's this human condition happening with this highly anointed person.
Yeah.
Moses couldn't speak very well, right? And God gave him a brother that was eloquent speaker and spoke for him.
Aaron, right?
Aaron, that's right. And God places people in our lives that are similar principally, right? I have always been shored up, even when I was a terrible, terrible person, by people that were godly people that, you know, and when God talks about, like, I will hold you up with my righteous right hand, I believe wholeheartedly in that. You know what I'm saying?
I do too, 100%.
There are some things that happen and that grips tighter and tighter that he has on you because you allow it. He wants you to choose him. And that's the
over and over
awesome
again. A jealous God, in fact.
Well, it says that too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. That's where I love, I never would have looked at anxiety probably through that lens if I had not met you, because we've talked about anxiety at length, especially when we first kind of connected because of life things that we're all going through and different things. And your exact words were like, well, I don't look at it that way. I look at it as a tool, as a benefit, as these things.
You know,
and I use it to recognize things in myself and others and situations. And I was like, wow, that's actually really good.
I mean, well, that is, just so you know, Ryan, I mean, I used to take it like, just like, you know, you have pills. I used to take anxiety pills every day. I used to have to take depression pills every day. I used to have to take, you know what I mean? I was fully medicated there and I never really liked them, but, you know, I did them just because like it would have such a harmful effect on me. And then just, like I said, man.
No way, just full disclaimer, I am in no way advocating for anybody to stop taking pills.
No. I would say, I'm not, dude, I had to, I mean, I took them. Like if I did not take them, if I did not take them, you know what I mean? Like I was not good.
Yeah.
And, but I would just, like you said, I would just let everything just overwhelm me. I would just be I can't even explain it. It would just be awful.
To say
I couldn't even function.
Crutching on the pills got you to a spot where you were able to focus on the things to mitigate the actual anxiety causes instead of crutching, right? Because there's no pill in the world that cures it.
Right. I don't know that
there's not a pill that cures it.
Yeah, I don't know how it would have played out, Ryan. All I can say is that I did take the medicine and I took it, you know, and I did take it. You know, if not, I
made life changes also.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying.
Just take the medicine and keep living it.
No. Yeah.
Terrible.
Then just over time, man, it was like I began to really I really began to put a lot of just focus on where I was at in my path, man. I actually started looking more inward, more into me, like, what am I doing? And then I would begin to take that dagger and dig in. Yeah. And then I started looking for outsourced people. Whoa. Then I got a relationship with God. Yeah. And I was baptized earlier on in my 20s, but as that relationship began to transform and change as well, and I began to be more open to it, it was like, then I just began to I don't know. I began to hear things and be led more by the Spirit. I began to open myself up to listen to the Spirit and actually obey the Spirit and actually take direction from God, and then begin to move in such a fashion. And then, over time, it's, you get better.
Right.
You get better.
So, yeah.
I was fully committed, Ryan. Fully committed.
Well, yeah.
That's what happened.
What it is. I think that your life now does testify to that.
Yeah, and I don't think those I don't know how maybe I wouldn't call it anxiety, but those same triggers that used to be in me that would create that, those are still there.
Right.
Like every now and again, like I get hit, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then my immediately thought process goes to like, where am I at? You know what I mean? Like, Absolutely. What am I doing?
Yeah, that was a great post, honestly.
Yeah, like what's going on? Where am I at with me? Why am I feeling like this? Why am I having these emotions? You know what I mean? And do I want those emotions to take me are those feelings or whatever that is, do I want that to take me someplace where I know I don't want to go? That's going to take me even farther away, or do I need to abruptly check myself, realign myself, take an inventory list, get into step work, and then boom, and then move me closer to God?
I think one of the hugest things for me to talk about step work, just real quick, was Dad helped with Celebrate Recovery for years and years, but never did the program, and then he decided to go through it. And one of the things that he recognized was that a lot of people do the steps because they taught themselves or were taught to do it without thinking, right?
Yeah.
And so then we just had to retrain our brains and intentionally do them. Right now, they come naturally.
Yes.
So I want to just.
Yeah, that's crazy about step work too. Like we're touching on that. It's like the majority of people. What I found is like majority of people do that, like automatically
without thinking. You can identify, but when they do something, you're like, "Oh, that's step 8."
Well,
or,
yeah,
wow, that's step 4. You know what I mean?
But for me, coming up, I didn't do that. Like I didn't do those steps. I don't think I did.
Well, maybe sometimes because you think like
until I begin to really work those steps.
Right.
I was like, wow, that comes so naturally to people. For me, it was like, nah, man, I got to put in a lot of work here because I don't do that naturally. Yeah. Like maybe I was doing it, but just not very good at it, so I wasn't having very much success. But I was like, as I'm coming up and I'm learning more about myself and I mean, even addictive behaviors and addicts, I'm all like, oh my gosh, like I'm actually I don't do that. Like these are steps I need to work in. So I read those steps so many times over the years.
I have to think at some point
you begin to just work them. They just come natural.
Without a working knowledge of the steps, you were probably doing some of them just based on meeting your mom and dad.
Oh yeah.
And your family and things. Yeah, and I'm not saying you weren't a shithead. That's not what I'm saying.
I don't know. But that could be argued.
I think talk to your. They said you were.
Yeah.
But I guess so even Dad. Through it, he didn't understand the steps, sat through many AA, NA, life recovery, various meetings, didn't have and then he has this recognition of like, oh, wow, I actually do these things because they're scriptural, right? They're principally scripture principles. So he's like, dude, and he used this, and I don't like, the way my dad said it was, he said, I'm not trying to define the word, but normal people just do these naturally. Right, like to him, what normal people do them naturally.
That's what I mean. I was like, I wasn't doing.
My dad's eyes of normal people are people that
have their shit together, probably.
Well, but rely on God. You know what I mean?
Okay,
They're church people.
Yeah.
Well, like our upbringing and stuff. And she asked a pointed question, direct question, like, when did you realize that your family wasn't normal? And I was like, oh man, I don't know, 9 maybe. Like that the things that happened in your home didn't happen in other homes, and. As you grow, these things happen. And so there's this recognition of things that happen as we get older and life experiences and all this, how God works in these mysterious ways to teach us through the 4 T's, obviously. And then we get on the other side of that where we have the triumph and the, I can't even remember them now. I'd have to get my phone. It's over there. But I do want to say this just because I think it is important. But anxiety is not a lack of trust in God. We have to check ourselves, and we have to, go to the mirror and take that dagger, as you say, and do that to make sure, right? Because we got to see, are we having this because we're distant?
Oh yeah. Right? Start checking yourself, inventory.
Because we're gonna have the struggle. So
check your location, check your path. Yeah, because we're gonna have the struggle, no matter what path. If you're on the narrow path, you're gonna have struggle. It's just God like, how are you feeling in that struggle?
God, through his word, tells us we will go through hard times, that we will experience situations that make us anxious or nervous, that we may even have some everyday life things that could be unspecific, hard to, that we have to work on identifying. Isaiah writes about the Savior of Israel, and he tells us, when you pass through the waters, I will be with you. When you walk through the fire, you shall not be burned. I think that's big.
Yeah.
Right. Especially when it talks in the New Testament about being refined by fire.
Yeah.
So it says, we as believers are not exempt from trials. God knows that we will experience various trials and tribulations and tests. Right. He does. And he knows that they will cause us to have feelings of anxiety, but he also knows that we're going to come out on the other side because he equips us. Right. He gives us everything.
That body armor, man. Dude, I was just listening to that on the way over here. I got one of my favorites on my channel. that I listen to. It's, Standing Firm. I was listening to that on the way over here, man. Yeah, I love that one, dude. It fires me up, man.
Yeah, I love that you can Google, and I mean, all I did is Google's what the Bible say about anxiety.
Yeah,
and
get
just
both.
pages and pages of verses. Some of them are different versions.
Ooh, and speaking on another thing too, that I was hitting on earlier. About like checking yourself, seeing where you're at, getting off those medications and things of that sort. Well, you know what I mean? And that's why I think I love running too as much. I love hitting the gym. I love just, intentional suffering.
Yeah.
It's like we're talking about is because that almost clears my mind, dude. It clears my soul almost, my body to a point.
Yeah.
Like I just feel, I don't know. I don't have the anxieties no more. Like it
hits different.
Yeah, it's just different, man.
It's different.
Yeah, and I don't want to. I'm trying. Yeah.
As I was running through this after you posted that, and I said anxiety is complex. Like it could be good or bad. Like it help you recognize things that you need to be aware of. Right.
Yeah.
Like, so in a spiritual sense, say you're going to someone. Let's go all the way down to extreme and say that is going to be possessed, and you're going to go with a group of people and pray for them. Right. Your anxiety is telling you to be spiritually aware, right?
Yeah.
Your anxiety is not necessarily telling you don't go because the Bible says go, fear not.
Yeah,
right?
fear not.
Fear God, not man or evil, right? But so that was my first thought process with that.
Fear the one who can really kill you. I think it's pretty much what it comes down to.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so then I recognized, well, there's good anxieties, there's good nervousness, there's good things that happen. For me, I'm scared of heights, right? I recognize that fear, and a lot of it boils down to I'm clumsy on flat ground, right? I got no business being in the air.
Yeah, on a little tight wire, walking across the Grand Canyon. Yeah, not going to see Ryan doing that probably.
I took a job with the city of Haven, and
that's
we
healthy.
did our own electricity, and our bucket truck went 56 foot straight up.
Yeah,
and to get trained, another city guy trains you, and the city guy was a good friend of mine, knew that I was scared of heights. And so here we are, and I'm like praying that the Allen gets in, and we just go up and work on a street light.
Yeah.
Nope. And the street lights are only about 30 foot probably. Nope. Jay gets in there, and Jay's just Jay, right? I love the guy to death. One of my closest personal friends. He goes straight 56 foot. And then he starts doing this, like, because it's hydraulic.
Shaking it.
Well, he would just bump the control. So we would drop and it, kadoom.
Yeah.
And the fiberglass, because it's a bucket truck for electricity.
Oh, my goodness.
So
man.
the flex on it, and I'm 300 pounds. He's 275.
That guy when we got to the ground, probably.
Well, it was funny. He said that he had never felt anybody shake like that in his life.
I was up there throwing up.
I didn't throw up, remarkably. But then it came to a time where I had to do it. And so here I am, and I didn't know nothing about electricity either. That was the scary part. So Alan and Jay were gone, so here I am. I'm the third guy there, and I have to change out a transformer. And so I have my ground guy, the city administrator, and I'm in the bucket. And so I'm clear down in the bucket, and all you see is my eyes and the orange hard hat, and I'm holding the side of it, and then my hand's over here on the control, and I have it going as slow as it possibly will go up. I mean, it's like, and everybody's like down there tapping their feet at me, but I got it done, right?
Nice, man.
So I had two things.
You overcame, man.
I was working, I wasn't like high kilowatts or anything, 2,500, which is pretty
but
low.
You were high in the air though, man.
And I was about 25 foot up, and I don't like standing on this table, bro.
Yeah, 25 foot's a ways up there.
I purposely gained 40 pounds to not have to go in the elevator, at the grain elevator, because the weight limit was 300.
Okay.
Right? And so I got up to 335 so I could say, and I brought a note from the doctor. I said, nope, safety first, guys.
Safety first, safety always, man. Safety
always.
is no accident, Ryan. Safety is
Every
no
accident's preventable. I
Sent
believe
through
that.
Too many safety topics.
Well, we should talk about toolbox talks. we should talk about every accident being preventable, especially with the way this week's gone. Accidental, more than likely accidental overdose. Could have been purposeful. Who knows? We'll never know.
I'd probably lean more to accidental.
Well, I read some stuff from his mom. Could question some things. You know what I mean? I don't know. He was in a bad spot.
Yeah, I was going to say, but if you look at anybody,
the plane wreck, right?
Yeah,
that was kind of tough.
Yeah,
especially from people from Kansas, because They left Wichita, right? And, it's young
Man,
kids. that were figure
there's
skaters.
athletes on there. Those skating ring people were on there, man. It was terrible.
They were being brought up to be the best in the world at what.
See, I didn't know that either. That's crazy. And just gone like that. See, like the remarkable people like that get taken out of an accident, man. It's just wild. Man.
It leaves you at the end of the day. Why?
Yeah.
Right? Why? Death entered the world through one man. Right? Sin. Death entered the world through one man. If death didn't enter the world, there wouldn't be a need for airplanes, buddy. I'm telling you,
True.
There wouldn't be.
Yeah, we would be
living that. There would not be the desire. Do you understand?
I didn't think about that. True story,
you have
right?
To understand that the desire to be God is what fuels progressive things. The desire to be God is what fuels that stuff. I'm telling you.
Well, yeah. Well, that's what created that original one. Anyways, they were trying to be like God.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that has never stopped.
They're like, you can eat off this, you'll be just like God.
Yep.
I'd have been like, we're already created in His image. We are already like that.
Well, that's part of what the recognition after you're indwelled with the Holy Spirit.
So basically, He's telling a lie to get them to do something against God that they already have. Boom. Like you already have that. Like you already have that. Like you are already created in the image of God. So basically you already have that. So then you got tricked to do something against God that you already had. Man, I never thought about it like that.
Yeah. So
I don't even know. We might have to talk about that later.
Well, we will. But I mean, just think about the original lie never stopped being the original lie. Satan twists what he says and he uses truth to promote evil. And the original lie never stopped. Did God really say? You know what I mean? Did God really say? And then why wouldn't you want to be like God?
Well, you already are, though.
But
in His likeness, you're created in His image.
Right. So, okay. Well, at the minimum level of human characteristics,
I'm getting caught up on that. I got to work that through my process.
But the implication is like that. Now you're going to become divine, right? You see what I'm saying? Like, instead of now you're basically taking it upon yourself
but they
to
already
recreate
were divine.
But they didn't recognize that.
That's
obviously,
what I mean.
in that
That's
moment.
what's crazy. That's why he got tricked. They already had everything that they wanted, and they thought by doing that they were going to get something more, but they weren't because they already had it.
I always have to ask myself, where do they get to the point of that they desire more than they needed? Right?
They thought, or why would they even think that there was more? Is that just our human nature that we always just want more, even though it doesn't
God
exist?
created us with the choice, right? If He didn't want us to have the choice, the tree would have never been there.
So we just think there's something more out there, but
the inherent desire to be like God is bred into us because of the way we're created. Now, there's a good way to be like God, and there's a bad way to be like God, right? So now we live our life because we want to imitate Jesus Christ, who is God. We want to be like Jesus, right? Are you tracking with me?
Yeah, I am. I'm just sitting here thinking too, man.
So at some point, which all points back to this one moment in time when the human man, both of them, ate the fruit, right? And so, like I said,
but so I don't know, man. It's getting me down a rabbit hole here.
It is, but to go back to the original point, death entered the world through one human, basically one man and woman, right?
Yeah, through a choice to go against. Yeah, through a choice to go against God.
The desire to be like a God fuels this progression of things, right? We need more stuff. We need to be able to do this faster. We need all this stuff.
Always wanting more, man.
More, right?
Yeah, it's always wanting more.
So if that would have never happened, then death wouldn't be a thing. We wouldn't grow old, right? And he talks about in the New Testament, the lion will lay down next to the lamb. It's going to go back to original creation. There wasn't predators out there, right? Death entered the world, and now all of a sudden, it affected all of creation.
Yeah, and then that just domino effect, man.
And it affects the heavenly realms. Like I'm so glad that I listened to Mel Gibson on Rogan the other day. And out of the 3 hours, my whole takeaway from the whole thing is his recognition that there's two spiritual realms. One is good and one is evil. And they are in a massive war over us as humans, little itty bitty old us.
Yeah, it's the principalities. It's not flesh against flesh.
It's very strange, though.
Why do we make it so much against flesh? Because we're going to get on a whole nother topic here, man.
It goes back to the original, back to the tree, and to be when you're flesh against flesh is because you're trying to dominate someone.
Yeah,
You're
you
trying
want
to be
more.
dominant.
Yeah, you want
be
more
than them. You want to
Yeah.
put them lower than you. So
everybody's wanting more,
so if
man.
you get rid of that and allow it to fight in the heavenly realms, and you pray into that, then things are happening. But I love at the end of that, he says, why? Why are we so important, right? Just because we're God's creation? God created the angels, right?
Well, God created everything.
Yeah, okay, of course. But I'm saying the angels were created before us. They weren't enough, right? He just keeps on this train of creation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because God's being God.
Yeah.
But then
God likes to create. I believe.
why?
Well, God likes
Why?
to create, yeah. But why are we so important?
Why are we so important? What significance do we have towards that heavenly realm battle?
We are the bride of Christ.
Well, there is that.
That's important.
It is important.
It just hit me there too,
Yeah.
but that's important. I mean, well, yeah, we are being, we are, that's who we are. Isn't that right?
Yeah,
Would that be correct?
I think so.
So that's why we're so important.
I could be totally wrong. And I'm okay with that. And if we are,
no,
drop a
It
comment.
just hit me. I was like, well, we're the bride of Christ. That's why we're important.
It is. Well, yeah, we're important from day one, and we're not any less important now. If we were, Jesus wouldn't have come.
Man, that makes me
He would've
feel
just-
good, don't it, man? Yeah. The
Yeah.
ceremony is being planned.
You know what makes me feel good is that we catch we have glimpses of the end through prophetic words of the Old New Testament, and we can be sure of those words because of all the prophecies that were fulfilled in the Old Testament and some New Testament prophecy, and we can back that with literal physical archaeological evidence.
That's wild to me too, man.
And I love, and we've talked about before, I love in the weirdest of times when that
Comes about.
when it comes about, exactly.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's just like divine appointments,
It is.
divine intervention, or it's just like,
Absolutely.
well, here you go,
Yeah,
little breadcrumb for you.
there is.
Stay
yeah.
hungry, stay seeking, stay searching.
I was looking for my Mary Mac prayer book because there's
Yeah.
a prayer for anxiety in there, but
Stay
it's all good.
seeking.
We ought to wind her down. Worry less, pray more. You know what I mean? Worry less, pray more. We're absolutely going to be faced with things that cause us moments of anxiousness, nervousness, and all those things. And if we don't go to God with them, we let Him dwell, then it starts becoming a chronic thing. And then, to be quite truthful, and I'm not trying to be disparaging, and I'm not trying to sound mean or any of those things, but to be quite truthful, to be unreliant on God is a sin, right? So if you are struggling and not relying on God, then there becomes this point to where we're not under that umbrella. We're not under the promise. Do you see what I'm saying? And I'm not trying to go down this theological rabbit hole of once saved, always saved, or losing yourself. I don't even care about those things right now. But we got to get to a point where we're back on firm foundation. I like to put some rock down, firm foundation, and then pile a bunch of sand on top of that. And then I throw some rock there, and then the waves come, and they take the rock and the sand, and I got to start over. But lucky, since I already got them to the hole, they don't wash away very far, so they're easier to throw in.
That's
You know what I'm saying?
I would say definitely check
I
the
don't
foundation.
even know if that makes sense. Work out your salvation with fear and trembling, right?
Yeah.
And that's such a real thing,
With discomfort at easy answers.
right?
Yeah.
We love that.
Half truths and superficial relationships.
Yeah, that is so good.
That way you're living deep in the heart, Ryan.
Yeah.
Deep in there, man.
I like to say that I live there. I
Yeah.
like to say that.
You got to,
I
man.
think the truth is that there's times where I, myself, and others help me recognize that I'm not living there, especially when I'm struggling with chronic anxiety,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
100%.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, right back to fear and trembling.
Yeah. All right, man.
I love you, bro. So glad you made it
Love you,
over.
Ryan. Much love. One
We
love.
love you guys.
Yeah, one love.
We'll see you.
Shalom.